Welcome back to Ride JBI. This is JB. This is a check-in video on our JBI suspension 2023 KTM 450 SX F R&D bike. We've logged in a few more hours on this bike. I'm just kind of show you guys the condition that it's in, update you on some of the testing that we've done and what conclusions we've come to, and what some of our future testing plans that we have for this. Very common question I have is, how is the painted plastics holding up? So far the bike has about, let's see, it's like 36 hours on it. We bought the bike with, I think 3 hours or maybe 6 hours. So we've logged in 30, not a lot, but it's definitely been a very informative and useful 30 hours. Since then, here's our black fender. It's mostly got chipped up on the very end. Now the OEM plastic is orange, so we can see the orange creeping through right here. Some of that gets blown off by the pressure washer when you wash it. So you just need to be careful when washing it, not to concentrate the pressure right here on the tip. But anyways, as you can see, the rest of it still looks very good. Some of it definitely flaked right up here on this edge. Kind of got a glare right now. You can see the white plastic underneath, and you can actually see where I filled the notes of Sharpie right here. But I mean, overall, the rest of the plastic, man, you really can't tell. Here's the rear fender. Again, we got a few chips here right at the edge. This fender is white underneath. And of course, the shock bottoming out, we definitely got some rub marks right here, as expected. When we were out doing some Baja suspension testing, I brought my bike out for the day so I could do some riding myself. And unfortunately, I slid out going down a hill that was just very rocky. It's a very low speed crash, but unfortunately it was all on rocks. So when that happened, the silencer got really scratched up, kind of a bummer. And so did the swing arm. And we had a nice little dent inside of the header. But you know, that's what happens when you ride off-road. And I should have known better in this situation to not apply the brakes so aggressively on the front brake going down a hill that was off-cambered, which caused the bike to slide out. But overall, for 30 hours, man, pretty pumped. Again, the main reason that we painted the plastics was because at the time, there was no black plastics available for sale. And we were not about to put these graphics on top of the orange and white and purple stock plastics. So since then, here's what we got. We've done a lot of fork testing on the forks right now. I have our JBI spec WP cone valve fork. This is the one that features our JBI suspension titanium subvalve. And we also converted the cone valve. Oh, no, wait 1 second. Waiting for the plane outside to go overhead. Anyways, we also converted the cone valve. We also converted the cone valve in these forks to a JBI spec leaf spring mid valve. It's the same style of mid valve you'd find in KYB forks on the YZ and YZF model bikes, and also all of the A-Kit KYB forks. Also, it is found in WP's newest WP Explore closed cartridge fork, which is found in the 2024 off-road models. So you could say JBI was a little bit ahead of the curve when it came to tuning, upgrading, and modifying these cone valve forks to something that is more, let's just say, up to date than the outdated cone valve system. We've been testing on these forks for quite a while. I'm really happy with how far they've come and how well that they perform. Now, we also have a lot of other videos, not on this build series, but just other videos of comparing these forks to our cone valve forks and also our 6500s. I'll show you guys those. So here's our JBI spec 6500 kits, the one that you've seen in other videos where we've done a lot of testing on. We got our red bottoms right here, and the other black bottom ones. Kashima coated uppers on both, DLC coated lowers on both. And that's kind of originally what really strengthened my idea when I was like, man, you know what? We can make these cone valve forks, the forks we have here, into a leaf spring mid valve fork. I have nothing against cones. These cone forks we have here work really, really well, but so do these shim forks. We usually have our KYB forks right here, but those are being drained right now because we are going to update those with our JBI Titanium Pro Perch, which we recently released after 5 years of development. Here it is right here. What we did is we were able to incorporate the shims into reed pedals, and incorporate those into the body itself. A much cleaner design than previous. Same amount of effectiveness as well. We weren't really trying to change that at all because the Pro Perch was really effective already, but I really wanted to show that how well we understood this item, that we could also further improve the design of it. Those forks we have draining in our tank right now. Later today, I'm going to, here they are. Here's our KYB forks for the WPs, sorry, for the KTMs. We're gonna update these soon with our JBI Titaniums, Pro Perches. And then above this is our JBI YZF KYB test forks, which soon I'm gonna start revalving. And that is another video series for the Yamaha YZF models. But yeah, so I mean, we've done a lot of fork testing. I'm really, really pleased with how well we've gotten all of our JBI spec fork settings. What I mean by that is we've done a lot of back-to-back testing. And what I mean by that is we've tested the JBI spec WP Exact Pro 6500 kits against our JBI spec WP cone valve fork against our JBI spec KYB SSS fork. And by doing that, we could really learn the strengths and advantages of each fork, and also the shortcomings of each fork. And then create solutions for the shortcomings so that way they no longer existed. And over time, that's allowed us to really create settings that perform very equal when compared to each other. I can't speak for other tuners, because I don't know many other people that have taken the time to really do this, but I can speak for Ride JBI that when it comes to suspension, we have tested it, we have tuned it, and we have developed it. And we like sharing it with you guys. So now that we've spent almost more than a year testing a lot of fork settings, the shock definitely has been a little bit neglected in terms of the amount of focus it has had. Biggest reason is because when people ride these stock KTMs, Husqvarna or Gas, the fork is the main thing that they notice that needs improvement. So most of our focus went to that to ensure that we had some very good settings no matter what system you chose to go with. Over the course of the year of having this bike, we have tested 3 different shock setups, and this one laying on the floor here is going to be our test shock number 4. Currently on my bike, I have test shock number 3, and that is actually the setting we've been selling to people for the past 6 to 9 months. That's a really good setting. I'm really happy with it. But I feel like the one area it could improve is the chatter bumps coming out of corners. The bike could be a little less chattery and stick better. So with this shock I have on the floor, I valved it in a way that's kind of unconventional, not in a way I would normally ever valve a shock. But with these bikes, and what I mean by that is the 2023 and newer KTMs, is our counter sprocket shaft is now lower than our swing arm pivot. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can see that the chain has to go up a little bit and over the swing arm. I'm showing you that because my chain is very loose right now, and we do that on purpose. when this swing arm moves through its motion, the chain is going to get very, very tight. It's going to create resistance. And we don't want that at the swing arm. We want our shock absorber to be the item that creates resistance. Why? Because we can tune, adjust, and modify the shock absorber. We can't tune and adjust or modify how much resistance the swing arm creates because the chain is getting tight. So because of that, we need to account for this damping effect that is taking place at the swing arm. And to do so, I came up with a kind of unconventional way or idea to valve up these shocks, because this shock is always going to get additional compression and rebound resistance due to the tension of this chain. When I go to change out this shock later today, when I have it removed, I'll show you guys how tight this chain gets and move it through its motion ratio to give you an example. Once you see that, you'll have a much better understanding of why I'm emphasizing this so much. All right, as you can see, I have the shock already removed, have that removed, so that way it's easier to move this through its motion ratio. Trying to do that with the shock, especially with the shock with the spring on it, would be very hard to do. So I'm going to move this out of the way. So with a zoomed out view, just pay attention to how tight this chain gets. Really loose, as you can see. As I move it up a little bit, it has gotten a little bit tighter. Now we've gone about even. Look how tight that chain is. There's no slack. Let's keep moving it up. Now it's gotten even tighter. Let's go even more. It's gotten even tighter. And let's go all the way to bottom out. And it's even tighter. That's not a good thing. So I'm going to do a zoom in view and do the same thing so you can see in more detail. All right, let's adjust this down a little bit. Awesome. Cool, so check this out. How loose your chain is. The wheel has now hit a bump and it wants to compress out of the bump's way. As it's doing that, everything's good until it hits this region right here. And now the chain has gotten a lot tighter and it's staying tight. Now it is hard for me to move the wheel in this area because how tight it is. Nor does it want to spin that much. So what's happening is our chain is creating so much tension that that is contributing to the amount of compression resistance that the shock is making. Ideally, we don't want the chain contributing any sort of damping resistance because we can't manipulate it, modify it, or change it. That's the entire reason why we have suspension on motorcycles. It's because we can manipulate it, modify it, and change it to fit the needs of the rider and their terrain and conditions. With this, we're always gonna get this amount of resistance right here, no matter what. So, what I'm curious is for 2024 and a half on the factory editions, do we have a new swing arm design so the chain doesn't get as tight? Did they modify the frame from where the swing arm pivot bolt goes through so that these are more in line with each other? Or did they change how the engine mounts and or the cases to where this is located? Any of those would work. Hopefully they did one of the three or maybe even all of the three. Because I'm telling you right now, once KTM resolves this chain tension problem, their bike's gonna go from good to great. And it is gonna be an awesome handling bike. And I'll say it now, it'll probably perform as good suspension-wise as the highly touted Yamaha. But before they can get there, they need to fix this last piece of their chassis. Now, I understand the narrative that's been out there. Everybody's saying the frame is too stiff. It's not the frame, it's this. When you're riding over bumps and the rear end's feeling chattery, you're not feeling plush or connected to the ground like every other brand motorcycle, or even KTM's previous generation bike from 2016 to 2022, you're gonna easily relate that to the suspension and or frame. And yes, you can say this is part of the frame, but in reality, it is a frame design. It's not because there's too much material in this area or makes it too stiff, it's because of this right here. That's not a good thing. So only time will tell. We'll find out and we'll update you guys. In the meantime, we have developed some new shock settings that are rather, let's say, unconventional in terms of how we would normally valve a shock. So that way we can account for the added damping resistance created by this. All right, you guys, thank you for watching the videos. All JBI suspension services and parts can be found at ridejbi.com.